Hello everybody. Today I am showcasing and asking questions from the forums about my 97 Eagle Talon. It has a 4G63 with a 6-bolt and a 16G turbo. So some of the questions I have are about my front O2 sensor. So I have it wired into my AFR gauge inside the car and pin 76 on the ECU. I'm wondering, how do I get the check engine light to go away for the heater for the Bank 1 O2 sensor? Do I have to loop in a wire back into the plug and plug in the old plug or something of that sort? Kind of like this, like the boost controller. It's plugged in, but it's all blocked off. I have a 3-port boost solenoid and boost gauge hooked up to my fixed wastegate, which is here. Bottom goes into the T, into the port 2. I'm getting boost source, unfortunately, from this charge pipe here. It's only point of boost reference I have, as the front of the turbo housing doesn't have one. And instead of threading and tapping in a new bung, I just ran it in there, which already had one being unused. I have EGR charcoal can in the front deleted, and I have evap and purge solenoid deleted for rate reductions, as this car was a track car, I believe, at some point. I have a fuel pressure regulator also from AEM, and I'm not sure which brand this is, but there you go. I have a catch can, intake, intercooler, charge pipes, everything that you can imagine. Cams, I have adjustable cams. I'm running 272 comp cams and ARP head studs. Some of the work I have done, I've replaced this plug here. This plug down here for the coolant was broken. I've reattached it and repinned it. The side markers, I bought new bulbs and new housings and had to repin this. I had to buy new pins as it was all corroded. It looks factory now. There was a lot of leaks. The transmission, the frickin' turbo drain leaking, coolant leaks, vacuum leaks in the charge pipe, countless leaks possibly inside the intake manifold below here. There was about 2 or 3 feet of extra lines going into the intake manifold. I shortened that all up and tied it up so you can see when you test the system now for boost leaks. Any smoke will just come out here or down below at the intake manifold, which would be easily visible. It's AC deleted and full emissions deleted, as I stated before. I'm running one fan only, unfortunately. I'll probably try and custom fab some type of bracket into here with a mini fan and splice in a new plug with the old plug, which I have relocated down here inside the frame for the time being. The alternator wires were a little bit, not messed up, but exposed to the exhaust. The drain for the turbo is also kind of exposed to the exhaust. So what I did was I grabbed heat wrap, and that's the wires for the alternator, but I heat wrapped the turbo drain, and I got some really high quality transit oil cooler line for the buses in my city. So yeah, I'm not sure how to tie this up either. I'll probably have to bend some steel and put a nut in here, and then maybe a L bracket or some sort for this, and bend another L here and put another bolt into here, as there's the ground wire for it permanently fixed to this bracket. Yeah, other than that, I have fabricated a fuse box bracket here like this, twisted and bent it in, hand bent this piece of steel here and tied it in with factory location. This canister was leaking. I fixed that the best I could. Belts are squeaking, bolts were loose. I've tightened all that up. Some missing covers on here, missing bolts. I do have the top cover, but I haven't got around to removing the strut tower brace yet, and bolting it down. I do have the very bottom cover and the mid cover and the top cover. Bottom one is installed. I don't believe the mid is installed, but I can install the top for sure. Not sure how that works. So I have installed and wired what was previously an oil pressure gauge. Now I've turned it back to factory. I got a new one here. Unfortunately, they cut the wires really short for some reason when they wired the old one, so I just extended it with the wires that I had and put that there. This is my yellow-red wire, which I believe is correct. If not, please let me know. And I also replaced the dummy light here, which is my yellow wire. I'm not sure if that's correct, but I believe it is correct from what I've read on the forums. And basically, I've cleaned it all up, Teflon tape in there, and all that sorts. Done it the best to my abilities and knowledge. Underneath the car here, replaced the gaskets, all sorts. Maybe I need to fix this hose up a little bit. Not sure. It wasn't leaking before. Maybe now it developed some type of leak, or I have to tighten up that hose clamp. Yeah, this is it. Looks pretty clean under here now. The car was originally oil coated on the underside, so basically all the bolts under here are brand new, for the most part. Even the way back there's no rust. I got the heat shield for the exhaust off with ease, and rebolted it back in, no problem. Here's the alternator wires for reference, just to protect it, because they are old and brittle. So I did that, and I also replaced this gasket as it was blown out. Here's a better view of that turbo drain line. Hose clamped and bolted down, tightened all the fittings as they were really loose before. I literally took them off with my fingers when I unbolted this from the car. Yeah, I refilled the transmission, checked everything down here. I don't see anything horrible or any leakage constantly. The ground is dry. I've had it jacked up for 3 days now in this state. They absolutely fucked these coolant lines before. I just had to do the best I could with what they gave me here, as the parts for this with barb is on back order for months for some reason, and I can't get them anywhere. Show you the inside of the car now. I've redone the whole inside of the car. Previously, it was not operational inside this car. Driver window was broken. I replaced the motor and regulator. It had no stereo and no speakers in the front besides these tweeters and the ones in the dash. I've wired all this up and made it as close to factory as I can, at least looking to spec. Need to figure out how I can secure this and maybe put a little cover and paint it black and insert it. The radio, the previous owners jammed one inside and it bent all of the brackets inside, so this was the best I could get it to sit. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty dang good, and it's all functional. The CD player is here and it is what it is. Cigarette lighter previously was disassembled and the parts were all over the car. I did not wire it in because the boost gauge is gaining its power from it, and the air fuel ratio gauge is obviously wired into the ignition as instructed from there. And yeah, it's all functional in here now. I have 4 engine codes, as I stated earlier in the video, for evap, purge valve, and EGR, and my heater for the bank 102, as it is wired into here, which is wired into pin 76 in the ECU underneath the floorboards. So I don't know if the tuner has to delete that when I go and get the dyno on the dyno day, but yeah. I have reinstalled and bled the brakes, and they're pretty rusty as I have not drove it. Cleaned the interior, washed it all. That back speaker cover is custom made, as it wasn't going in before. I had to re-bend it and they were already fucked around with. Here's my inserts inside the car. I have not got around to caulking that yet, as it is summertime now, and I have not drove it yet, especially not in the rain. And I have not experienced any moisture problems while working on the car the last month. In the back, I have a sub wired up to the battery. It looks pretty nice. I think I'm going to build a trunk floor in the next few days here. I have replaced these twice, because the first time I replaced them and put the hood down, or the trunk down 3 times, the passenger side strut broke. It literally broke here at the ball, and no repairing. Here's the sub. It is a 8-inch soundstage 300 watt system. I do have, I believe these are my high inputs for the rear. I like the sound of the low input. This car is pretty small, and it has a lot of speakers in it already, and the ones that are installed are pretty high quality, so it doesn't need much more. Here's my remote wire that is wired all the way up to the front into the radio, my RCAs which go into the back of the radio. Here is my ground wire, and here is my power that goes all the way up the passenger side and through here, behind the seats, underneath the floors, and pulled up through here and down here with the inline fuse, and it's tied in right there. My ground for the body is there. My engine ground is down there. Yeah. Here is this cam angle sensor, which I've replaced, and I believe it is wired correctly. White, which goes to blue red. Yellow, which goes to red, black. Black goes to black. Red goes to red. And white from the crank angle sensor is dead and capped off. I will tape that up when I go to drive. Bushings all are nice. All the motor mounts have been replaced. The previous owners told me the turbo was blown, but after hooking all the turbo system up properly and making sure it's not leaking, at least in any major way that I can see at the time of running the car, so far it's holding boost and starting up fine. There's no weird noises. On startup, I do have slight piston slap as it is not tuned for the cams and the boost solenoid and the setup that it is running, and the injectors, and maybe they'll have to adjust the fuel pressure a little bit. I'm not sure what it's set at. It's maybe set at 43 or so. Maybe it could turn down 2 or 1 psi for the setup that it's running. I'm not sure. I've replaced the radiator cap. Filled up coolant. Oil was done. Filled up the brake reservoir. There is a slight rust all around the car, but nothing too major. 2 spots I would like to get repaired in the future, but they're not critical as long as I protect them now with rust protector and the proper paint. Yeah, that is about it on my 97 Eagle Talon. It does have Euro headlights, or JDM headlights, sorry, wired up. Turbo SI, probably just your shitty Amazon ones. I'm not sure, I haven't looked up into that. I have sourced a rear brake light as the previous owner wanted to do the high rise, and I prefer the boomerang. The previous one was spray painted black and fucked around with, and I didn't have the insert for the light bulb itself or the female connector, and I hooked that all up, and the wires were damaged, so I fixed those and did that. And I'll replace miscellaneous pins missing around the car and so on. I am missing 3 trims for the rear tail lights, as they were converted into Eclipse tail lights, which I do not know if from the conversion the back plates no longer fit properly and they had to delete them. I'm missing 1 trim around the inside of the window. For now, as when I go to drive it, I don't want it vibrating, so I can diagnose the car further. I just put some tape and hot glued it up best I could. Yeah. And when I build the trunk floor, I will obviously tie down the sub a bit better and tie down the wires. but I have not gotten around to driving it yet, and I have not gotten a tune yet. So until then, this is how it's going to be. I will showcase the outside of the car a little bit here.